Greetings, citizens. Hey you, beautiful, creepy human being you, and welcome to today's true crime episode. I am so happy that you are here. I am so happy that somehow in all of this that we're forced to deal with on the day today, you and I were able to find each other on this crazy little planet that we call home. My name is Brittany or Bratterstein, whichever you prefer, and today we're going to be discussing the murder of 42-year-old mother of three, Christine Santurri. But before we get started, if you have not yet had the pleasure, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing that bell. I put out a new video every single week, sometimes 2 a week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you specifically you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. Now, before we get into the details of today's case, I first want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Ana Luisa Jewelry. If you've been here a while, you have already heard me sing the praises of Ana Luisa Jewelry because they are a jewelry company that creates high quality pieces but at affordable prices. And on top of that, everything they make is incredibly long lasting. Like the pieces that I wear every day, I have had in my ears for literal years. In my ears for years. Great. And they don't break the bank, which for me is key. Now, you guys know that Mother's Day is right around the corner. Well, Mother's Day is the perfect opportunity for you to celebrate the women in your life who inspire you and give your life meaning. The women in your life that just make it important and livable for you. And for me, those are honestly the mothers in my life. I am a mom. I have a mom. My sister is a mom. My best friend is a mom. And all of these women, me included, are the most iconic women that I know, and they deserve to be celebrated all day, every day. And all of them have been in some way acknowledged with Ana Luisa by me over the years. Whether it be a gift from me, an Ana Luisa piece from me for them to wear daily, or a piece that I wear daily for them. I'm not wearing it now because I put in my new pieces right now, but the rose that I always wear, that's for my best friend. I just feel like gifts should have meaning. You know what I mean? Like everybody says your tattoos should have meaning. Don't really agree there, but your gifts that you give other people, for me, I'm like, I like it to mean something. I like it to be special. Ana Luisa's pieces are an excellent way to treat those that you love, or even just to treat yourself and help elevate your everyday. Plus, they offer speedy shipping all over the world. So today I want to show you the new pieces that I got to kind of give you some ideas of what they have to offer. This one that I'm wearing right now is one that I wear every day, but this one right here and this one right here, these are the new ones. So let me zoom in and show you. Okay, so my earrings here, they're all Ana Luisa. This is one that I wear every single day. I almost never take out. This one here is a new one. This is the Ashley hoop, which is so cute. It's a little mini hoop, and I love how these look stacked together. And then this one, okay, this is actually a cuff. This is the Michelle cup, which means I can take it off. There's no piercing there. I can just kind of put it wherever I want. The sky is the limit. And I chose to put it up next to my tattoos that you guys are always so curious about. And I just think it's so cute. And I've been wanting a cuff for a while because the older you get, the more piercings and tattoos hurt. And that's just the truth of the matter for me. And I don't want to put any more holes on my body. So I thought a cuff was an awesome option. And I was right because I am obsessed. So if all of this sounds as good to you as it does to me, and you want to get a gift for somebody important in your life, even if that important person is just you, click the link at the top of my description box to let Ana Luisa know I'm the one that sent you. It helps out my channel, and pick up your new favorite piece or pieces of jewelry today. Now, I just want to say a big thank you to Ana Luisa Jewelry for partnering with me on today's video. It's partners like Ana Luisa that make it possible for me to put out videos as consistently as I do. And a big thank you to you guys for always being so supportive of all of my sponsors. You rock. Don't ever change. Now, with all of that said, let's go ahead and get into this video. So this video is on a case that is out of East Providence, Rhode Island, or more specifically, it's out of Riverside, Rhode Island, which is a neighborhood in East Providence, Rhode Island. Great. And this is an area that is seen as generally being a safe place to live, especially for families. It's known for its peaceful, quiet neighborhoods and its strong community bonds. And overall, Rhode Island as a state is considered to be one of the safer states to live in. However, in 2015, East Providence had one of the highest rates of domestic homicides in the state. And the murder of Christine Santurri was the second domestic violence homicide in the state that year. And what's super tragic here is just 36 hours before she was killed, Christine had gone into the police department and told them that she was afraid it was going to happen. She had literally predicted what happened to her. So with that, today I'm going to tell you the entire story. I read all the things that you do not have to, and at the end of this video, I want you to answer the question of the day. I'm going to give it to you now so you can have it kicking around in your brain as we go through the details of this case, but of course I want you to answer once we have something to go on. The question of the day is this: what protective measures do you think could have been taken to protect Christine Santurri? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below after we go through the details of this case. And now, with all of that said, come gather around and let me tell you the story of the murder of 42-year-old Christine Santurri. Our story today is going to begin on May 10th. This was Mother's Day of 2015. It was on this day that just after 11 a.m., police were dispatched to 227 Providence Avenue. And this was the apartment where 42-year-old Christine Santurri lived with her children. When police arrived, they found that Christine had been viciously attacked. It was clear that she had been ambushed while she was trying to enter her apartment through the back door. Whoever had done this to her had met her there, attacked her, forced her inside, and stabbed her over and over and over in her torso and in her head. And what's just so horrific about this, besides the fact that it just is horrific, is that Christine's 21-year-old daughter was there. She was upstairs, heard what happened, and came down to her mother's aid, but unfortunately was not able to help her. It was too late. They did what they could, though, and, Christine was rushed to Rhode Island Hospital, but it was there that she was pronounced dead. Now, this case did not get as much coverage as I think that it should have for a number of reasons. One, it's so incredibly tragic. I mean, a mother of 3 kids being killed on Mother's Day and her own child having to be the one who finds her that way is incomprehensible. I truly cannot imagine being in that position for anybody who was a part of this. But then you take that and you add the fact that the man who did this had a long history of hurting women, and it just kind of floated under the radar and was able to have access to her to do this. And then you add the fact that Christine had tried to go to the police right before this happened to her. She knew something was going to happen, and still this man was able to kill her. You would think that this case would have gotten more coverage, but for whatever reason, it just didn't. Even fishing on newspapers.com, which is a very reliable source for me when I'm doing my research on these cases. It's too recent of a case. Also, 2015 newspapers have newer cases are hard to find on newspapers.com because of the internet of it all. But I looked, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to find that much information on Christine, who she was as a person, who she was to those that loved her. But I still feel like her case is one that needs to be told. So I'm going to tell you what I was able to find out. But that's why it won't be as in-depth as I typically like to go, because there's just not as much information as I'd like to have. With that, though, I will tell you what I was able to find out, and that was this, as follows. Christine Ann Santurri was born on February 9th, 1973 in Providence, Rhode Island, and she was one of 3 children. She was the eldest with a younger brother and a younger sister, and she was born to parents Stephen and Beverly. And she was not only born in Providence, but that's where she built her life and lived there as an adult, and sadly, this is where she also lost her life. Christine was said to be the type of person who never had a bad thing to say about anyone. She was very forgiving. She was very open to those in her life. And she was the type of person who wanted to see the best in everyone. She didn't want to believe, how some people think that people are just inherently evil. She seemed to think that people were inherently good, and she wanted to give people the chance to show her that. She was said to be the sweetest person you'd ever meet, with a smile that could literally light up any room. And those who knew and loved her said that that was one of the things they'd missed most about her, her smiling face and the sound of her laughter. So Christine was a stay-at-home mom. She had 3 kids. As I said, she had an adult daughter who unfortunately was there when she was attacked. And she had another daughter and then a young son, who I believe was her youngest, a little boy who was still so young when he lost his mom, which is just, as a mom with a boy now, it's it really, really bothers me to think about that, because I just know how much I love him, and I just know how much he loves and needs me. So it just destroys me to think about. And in addition to that, I said, she had an adult daughter. Christine was also a grandmother. So, she just had so many people in her life that loved her, her kids, her grandkid, her nieces, her nephews, her parents, and they were all devastated by her loss. So why did this happen? There isn't really a why. Is there ever really a why when it comes to why somebody is murdered? Not really. Sometimes you can point to something, but in this case, there really wasn't anything. But I will tell you what happened. And it all started with an abusive piece of shit man. This man was 43-year-old Yolande Stansfield. And I don't even know if this is actually his real name, because in all the articles I saw written about this case, which there weren't many, but there were enough, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to be here. But in all the articles, they kept switching up his name. They really knew how to throw me off my rhythm. It just turns out he had a lot of aliases. So they referred to him as Yolande Stansfield. No, Yolande Stanfield, Yolande Stansfield, Jermaine Stansfield, and Jermaine Yolande. So do with that what you will. I'm going to call him Yolande because that's what I saw reported the most often. And it seems to be in most of his aliases. That name seems to be incorporated. So I'm going to call him Yolande. Anyways, Yolande seemed to be a bit of a dick. And obviously he was. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about him today, right? Like, people who are dicks typically don't go on to murder people, generally speaking. But he was a dick even before that. And he had quite the record. Dating back to 1990, he had charges for domestic assault, kidnapping, and even second-degree sexual assault, just to name a few. And on top of that, at the time he murdered Christine, she actually had a restraining order issued against him. He had a restraining order that was against him, given to him by Christine. I don't know if I worded that correctly, but you know what I mean. And he violated that restraining order on the Friday before she was killed. He violated that restraining order on the Saturday before she was killed. And then obviously he violated that restraining order the day he killed her. It was just very clear that this man had a pattern of hurting women, of treating them less than. So this wasn't one of those cases where, oh, it just came out of nowhere. He was a totally nice guy and then all of a sudden he did this. No, this is people knew. People knew that he was capable of something like this. The signs were just so blatantly obvious that he would go on to hurt another woman in his life at some point. And a woman named Deborah, who was the executive director of Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and another woman, her name was Kristen, and she was the executive director of Women's Center of Rhode Island. They released a joint statement about this case where they said, quote, "It is important to realize that this crime was not an isolated incident, but the final abusive act in a pattern of violent behaviors, all of which need to be taken seriously by law enforcement and our communities." And I think that end that included and our communities is particularly important because just from existing in this space for so long, I have seen that whenever you talk about a case that involves domestic violence, you always get those people that are like, well, why didn't you just leave? Instead of people trying to take the time to learn why they couldn't. This happens all the time. You know what I mean? It's not like all of these women just want to stay in abusive relationships. And Christine's murder was the second domestic violence murder in the state that year. And in the previous 5 years, her murder was the fifth to happen in East Providence alone. And they said, the women who were talking about this, those two women that I mentioned, they said that this isn't what they want their area to be known for, obviously, but it's the reality of the situation. This is happening all the time. And murders like this are happening at an alarming rate. And I mean, that's true because how often are we on this channel talking about violent men who murder the women in their lives that they say that they love and that they care so much about, right? That they were really just obsessed with and just wanted control over. How often are we talking about it? All the time, it seems like. And it's terrifying, but it's real. It happens, and it happened to Christine. Now, people who knew Christine were shocked. People who didn't know Christine were shocked. Just the story in general, a beautiful mother being killed on Mother's Day and her kid happened to find her is such a horrific thing that it did capture the hearts. It weighed heavily on the hearts of those who lived in the community. Obviously, it didn't get as much, nationwide, there you go, coverage. But the people who knew about it, it was like a punch in the gut. And those that knew her, it was particularly difficult because she was somebody who was known and was loved within her community. She was loved by her friends. She was loved by her family. She was loved by her neighbors. And one of her neighbors, it was her neighbor and her close friend. I don't know if they were neighbors first and became friends. Friends first became neighbors. Either way, her name was Sonia. And she said of Christine's loss, and I quote, "Nobody deserves to be taken away like that in a brutal, brutal manner to someone who was respected by everyone and loved by everyone." She added that she had literally, the morning that Christine was killed, she had texted her Happy Mother's Day, because she knew that she was a mother because they were close friends. And that minutes later, she came outside to see cop cars all over the place and learned that her friend was dead. And not just dead, murdered by a man that she had only dated. I didn't mention this yet. She had only dated for 3 months. Only 3 months, and she knew she needed to get out of that. Now, exactly why the relationship ended has not been stated in any article, and I haven't seen any interviews by anybody she knew that expressed why the relationship ended. But considering how short of a time they were together, and considering the fact that in that short period of time she had to get a restraining order against him, I would say maybe he was not the best boyfriend. And I say a guess, but it wasn't really a guess on my part because of the fact that 36 hours before Christine was killed, she went to the East Providence Police Department and she let them know that Yuland had violated the restraining order against her. And she had to write a report when this happened. And in the report, she wrote herself, quote, "I'm scared of Yuland, and I'm scared he will come back to my house to hurt me. Yuland has assaulted me in the past, and I think he will do it again. He assaulted me in the past, and I think he will do it again." That's what gave me some insight into perhaps why this relationship ended. But moving on. In this report, Christine said that Yuland had come to her house that Friday. So she was killed on Sunday, remember? So the Friday before, he had come to her house. He was outside her house. He was screaming at her. Can you even imagine being in that situation and you're in an apartment and you have these neighbors and there's this man, this large man, by the way, standing outside screaming at you from the outside. But this is happening to her and she's inside pretending that she's not there, doesn't answer him, and eventually he leaves. Leaves, but he doesn't leave her alone, obviously not. He proceeded to call her over and over, to text her over and over, telling her things like he was going to, quote, break her face, saying he was on his way to her house, and saying he was going to kill her. And he wrote to her that if he was going to end up going to jail, he was going to make sure it was worth it. So Christine's there. She's telling police this, and surprisingly, they take her seriously. And this is something we know. I mean, I don't know what we know. I know what I know. I don't know what you know. I know that that is not something that happens. It happens way less often than I prefer. Usually, it's not taken seriously. Or I don't want to say usually, but in a lot of cases that I've looked into, it's not taken seriously. I have covered and looked into so many cases where a victim of domestic violence goes to police and they aren't taken seriously, and the police don't respond to it or do what they should as quickly as they should, and it ends up being a tragic situation. Obviously, if I'm talking about it, it's a horrifying situation, but that didn't seem to be the case when it came to Christine's case. The police said that they immediately issued a warrant for Yuland's arrest after Christine came in and reported that he violated the restraining order. And the police chief said of this specifically, quote, "I think we did everything we possibly could. He acted in a very quick period of time. I think the system does work. Unfortunately, like I said, domestics are very, very difficult." So according to police, after they issued the warrant for his arrest, they went out and they tried to find him. They went to look for him, but they found it to be incredibly difficult because Yuland didn't have like a physical permanent address, and he hadn't for a while. He had been going in and out of shelters for quite some time, but they did, in their opinion, everything they could to try to find him. They didn't even work alone. They worked with other agencies to try to track him down. But what they ultimately came to the conclusion of after the fact, because they weren't able to find him, and this happened so quickly that when they looked at it after, they believe, this is gonna blow your mind, maybe it blew my mind, is that he was more than likely living in the woods near her apartment. Living in the woods near her apartment, which just seems insane to me. It's so horrifying to me. And it seems very strange to me that a man like him, like a registered sex offender, question mark, somebody who had committed sexual assaults, would not have like an address that he had to be connected to. Doesn't that seem strange? I guess it is easier said than done because you can't like make somebody work and you can't make somebody hire somebody with a history like that. So you can't make them have somewhere to live. But I just found that to be very odd that he could just be out there doing whatever and nobody would really know where he was. But the point is they didn't. They didn't know where he was. They weren't able to find him. And this is what gave him the opportunity to be able to do what he did. And the police chief just said basically like this guy had a plan and he did exactly what he wanted to do. That Mother's Day morning, Yuland texted Christine, despite the fact that she had a restraining order against him, and despite the fact that at this point there was also a warrant out for his arrest, though I don't know if he knew that there was a warrant out for his arrest. He texted her regardless. And of course, many of these texts were threatening. This man boarded a ripped-up bus, which is a rapid bus, and he took it from Providence to East Providence, where Christine's apartment was. But when he got there, she was not home. Now, she wasn't home because it was Mother's Day. And she was a mother, but she also had a mother. So she had gone over to take her mom a present to honor her on this day, which is so sad. But I'm also just really glad that her mother, that Beverly, got that opportunity to see her that day. I think we have to go. But anyways, the point is Christine was not there. So Yuland sat there and he waited. And he waited. So he had so much time to think, so much time to choose to make another choice, but he didn't. And the whole thing is just so creepy because police believe that this man had been stalking her outside of her apartment. I don't know how long they believe he was doing that, but I find that to be particularly frightening. Like, I have a big fear of somebody like watching me through the windows of my apartment and me not knowing. And the fact that that was happening to her is just, it's terrifying to me. Once Christine got home, she went to her back door and tried to let herself inside her apartment, having no idea that he was there waiting for her. And he ambushed her. He attacked her right there at her doorway and forced her inside, where he proceeded to stab her over and over. He stabbed her 18 times in her torso and in her head. And her daughter, her eldest, her 21-year-old child was there, heard the screams, and ran downstairs. And thankfully, Yuland took off. He left, he fled, and he didn't also hurt this girl. So police are dispatched to the home, but Yuland, he's off. He tried to run. Now, he didn't make it very far. I mean, he was a big man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying big men or big people can't run. I, for example, well, I'm going to be an example of being similar to him. I'm a big woman. I can't run. But okay, have you ever seen Arnold Schwarzenegger run? Like, I just watched True Lies and I was like, look at how this man runs. He is big man. He's a fit man, but he's a big man. And it just seems like running a bit difficult when you're larger. I don't know. But anyways, he ends up leading police on a chase, and he was going through the woods and into Bullock Cove off of Peach Orchard Drive, which was in the water. Cove. Great. Water. Cove. Wonderful. Great sentence. He was literally trying to run through knee-deep water like a marsh or wetlands, which I've never seen one in person, but they look lovely in photos. And this is where he was caught. He was about a half mile away from Christine's home when he was taken down, covered in mud, carrying a knife, the murder weapon. And this was just 30 minutes after Christine's body had been found. And when he was arrested by police at that time, he, quote, made several utterances that let police know that they had arrested the right person. So police searched the wooded area that he had been through, all the wooded area around that with police dogs, and Yuland was taken into custody. And apparently, this arrest was quite the spectacle, because when I was reading about it, I was like, okay, cove, water, marsh, secluded, maybe? No, apparently there were neighbors. There were people who lived, neighbors of the marsh, sure. There were people who lived around there who heard the whole thing go down. There was this guy, James, who came out in one article who said he was just like at home, chilling, not killing, in his living room, watching TV. Maybe he didn't say TV. In his living room, when all of a sudden there's cop cars all around outside, and he starts hearing the cops yell, like, he's armed, don't move, drop the weapon. This guy was super thankful, though, that the cops were able to take Yuland down where they did before he got to, like, the homes, because he goes all the way across this cove, and he ends up almost at this neighborhood. And honestly, who knows what a man in that condition, with everything to lose, in, like, self-preservation mode, would have done to try to protect himself. It's a scary thought. Anyways, all of that is to say that Yuland Stanfield was arrested, and he was charged with the first-degree murder of Christine Santurri. And in addition to Yuland being charged with the murder, he had additional charges for several other things, like failing to register as a sex offender and violating the restraining order that Christine had against him. Which the fact that there was a restraining order against him that he had violated, and the fact that they had a warrant out for his arrest and had just not been able to arrest him in time, made it so that police were taking Christine's murder case very personally. They said that they took all murder cases very seriously, but this one was just hitting their hearts a little close, like a little closer to home for them. The Attorney General even said of Christine's murder, and I quote, Mother's Day is a day for families to celebrate, thank, and treasure moms like Christine Santurri, a mother of 3 loving children. Tragically, the defendant shattered that day with unconscionable rage and violence. His violence has left a grieving family struggling to understand why this happened, and a son who doesn't understand why his mother, his best friend, is no longer there. While today closes a chapter in this case, it can never heal the wounds of grief and loss felt by those who knew and loved Christine. And that was right, because there were so many people who knew and loved Christine, and even those who didn't, who were affected by her loss. And quickly, her front door of her apartment became a memorial for her with flowers and balloons and messages, all from people who wanted to honor this innocent mother who lost her life due to an abusive dick. A dick who had the audacity to plead not guilty to Christine's murder. And speaking of which, so you enter your plea at your arraignment, right? Like, this is the first hearing that you have when you go to court in these cases, and you stand in front of the judge and, like, the case they have against you is presented, okay? Well, this man not only had the audacity to plead not guilty, but he also had the audacity to have an absolute meltdown in court. I watched the footage of this, and you see him, and there's all these people standing around him who seem like they're like supporting him physically to make it so that he stands. And all of a sudden, he collapses to the floor, and he is wailing, like full on wailing and crying on the ground. He literally had to be dragged, forcibly escorted from the courtroom where he could go out and get his shit together before finally coming back in once he was composed to a point where he still sat in the courtroom and like cried and sniffled through the entire rest of the hearing. Oh, and before we move past this arraignment, I forgot to mention this man's a father. Yeah, he has at least one daughter. And I know this because after this arraignment, she did speak to the media briefly, where she said, like, of him collapsing in court, she's like, I have no idea what's going on through his head. And she said of her and her family's response to his arrest and the fact that he murdered somebody, she said, quote, "We are all shocked. We really can't even say anything. All I can say is I'm sorry for the family. It's sad that he did that." And it is so sad. I can't even imagine being a child and knowing your father not only is capable of doing something like that, but actually did something like that to a woman. And you're a girl who's going to grow up to be a woman. It's just... So anyways, he's arrested. He's held in jail without bail, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. And he was going to sit there and he was going to wait in jail for his trial, which was finally going to begin in 2017, which was 2 years after the murder. But in 2017, they did not actually have to have a full-blown trial because a now 45-year-old Yulan Stanfield changed his plea from not guilty to guilty of the first-degree murder of Christine Santurri. In court, he apologized for murdering Christine, for stealing her life, from stealing her from her children's lives, for absolutely traumatizing her daughter, who had to see her mother be killed, and who was in court, by the way, and actually made a statement where she said, quote, "Never in my life would I think I would be waking up on Mother's Day to my mom screaming my name for help. Never in my life would I think I would lose my mom this soon. On May 10th, 2015, 2 years ago, I lost the most important woman in my life." She didn't lose her, though. Christine was stolen from her by an evil man who gave the most hollow apology ever in court when he said, and I quote, "It haunts me every day that I did kill somebody, and I am just so sorry that I took a life." Okay, sure. Christine's family seemed to be pretty unmoved by his apology, and it wasn't just her family either, because the judge had a similar reaction when they responded, saying to him, quote, "Although you accept responsibility for the crimes by entering your plea of guilty today, and although you agree to the maximum penalty under the law, this court finds your apology and your actions without sincerity." Was that I can't snap, so I was like, is that an actual snap? That snaps for this judge. With that, Yulan Stanfield was sentenced to life in prison, plus an additional 2 10-year sentences for the violating the restraining order charges, and those 2 10-year sentences are to be run consecutively. So, sounds like he's going to be in jail for the rest of his life, which good. I think that that's where he belongs. I don't think he should be out in the world with good, innocent people being the type of person that he is. I just don't. And that's because Christine did not deserve to die, okay? She did not deserve to be murdered so brutally by a man who scared her and abused her and stalked her. It just feels like such a common story, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame that she was taken from the world this way and that she was taken away from her family in the way that she was. But her family has said that he may have taken her life, but he did not take her spirit. And her sister said specifically of this, and I quote, "You may have taken her physically from all of us who loved her, but you will never take away the memories we have of her, and her spirit will live forever." And with that, my friends, is the story of the murder of Christine Santurri. I hope that you found it to be informative. I hope I gave you all the information you would want when looking into this case. And of course, I just want to thank you for hanging out and remembering Christine with me today. Now, considering everything I told you throughout this video, I want to revisit the question of the day, and that was this. I actually have two now. One, what protective measures do you think could have been taken to protect Christine from Yuland? That's my first one. And the second one is, do you think there should be like a better system in place to keep track of men like Yuland? Because it seems insane to me that he could have a violent history like he did and nobody had tabs on him. I know it's easier said than done, but let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. I am curious to hear what you have to say. Before you leave, please don't forget to leave me a comment down below with whatever cases you'd like to see me cover in the future. As you know, I have a long list of cases, and whenever you leave me a comment with a case suggestion, I put it on my list with your name next to it, so if I do cover it, I can give you a shout out. I love looking into the cases you guys suggest because they're often cases I haven't heard of or cases that need more coverage, and I know you're filled with great ideas and great taste. Otherwise, you would not be here. If you haven't already, please don't forget to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing the bell. I put out new videos every single week, sometimes 2 a week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you, specifically you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. One of us. And if you want to hang out more consistently, all my social media is listed down below, along with a link to my membership and a link to my merch store. Now, real quick before you leave, I have 2 things to remind you of. 1, this that you're watching right now, this that you're listening to, this is also a podcast, True Crime with BRATTERSTEIN. If you want to search that on any place that you listen to or watch podcasts, I guess you can watch podcasts now, it's crazy, but if you want to, search me up, give me a listen, leave me a review. I'm just getting started, but I'd love to be pushed out in the algorithm. And if you don't want to, that's cool. I just want to thank you for being here. And the second thing I wanted to say to you is to make sure not to forget to click the link at the top of my description box to shop Anna Luisa jewelry, the perfect place to get a meaningful gift for any woman that you love in your life. And now with all that said, I just want to thank you for being here when you could literally be anywhere else in the world. That is tight. You are tight. I hope to see you in my next video. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.